Hey guys, what is up? It's Dusty here, and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Crypto News. And when I tell you guys that things are getting interesting, I don't joke around. One of the things that's just happened is gonna keep people up at night, as what happened is this. Just in, Jim Cramer says we're in a bull market and to buy the dip. Now, for anybody that does not know, whenever Jim Cramer says something, you run, right? You run away and you go in towards the opposite direction. If Jim Cramer says walk to the left, you walk to the right, straight away every single time, every single day of the week. And so for him to state, no, that we're in a bull market, it means we must be going down. That's also why Carl already wrote, oh my God, no, because, the time for sell buttons has come. And prepare for some breaks, guys. Prepare. Here's also another fun example of people will always be contradictory and there will always be different opinions on every single matter. So Michael Burry, the guy behind The Big Short, very famous film, he said, sell. That's he didn't really give us too many words. He just said sell. And then, let's say 20 minutes later, Jim Cramer says, you know what? Make sure you freaking buy. It's always kind of funny. Anyway, in terms of what's been going on, there was already a couple of juicy updates. For example, the Eurozone inflation actually has fallen down to 8.5, which was a bigger ease than was actually anticipated mostly around the markets. And obviously, we are excited to be seeing what's going to be showing up to our doorstep, basically, throughout the next couple of hours, as later tonight at 8 p.m. on the UTC +1 Netherlands time, or 11 p.m. Dubai time, or 7 p.m. UK time. For the rest of you people, figure it out. We're going to be getting ourselves the Fed interest rate decision. And like always, guys, I'm going to be live streaming this. So make sure you tune into the channel at right around 7:35 or something like that. And we're going to be streaming for probably a long time, like an hour and a half or so. So like I said, make sure you have that notification bell on the channel so you'll be notified when I go live for this live stream. And now that we're talking about tonight anyway, it's going to be interesting to see what's actually going to happen throughout this night. For example, in December, we had a pretty sharp dip right after the announcement came, the meeting was. Then in November, we had a pretty instant drop, but actually over the next couple of hours, things actually did pretty well. And then in September, again, the moment that the announcement was made, we saw a very significant drop. Afterwards, the market kind of went sideways, but it's about the initial announcement. We've already covered it many times, but if you're trading around the FOMC meeting, you certainly have a very good chance to make a crazy amount of money. It's just the simple truth. But, and that's where the difficulty lies, it is extremely difficult to time the right direction. If we follow along the lines of December, November, and September, we'll see a pretty interesting pump right before or potentially on the minute itself, with dumps for the next couple of hours or at least 1 to 2 hours afterwards. And that's something you can prepare yourself for by keeping a couple of positions open. We've said before, there's a couple of strategies that you can utilize to potentially make a ton of money in these volatile times. They have to do with stop losses and making sure they are put in a smart fashion. Because usually, whenever this meeting comes around, you get some very heavy volatility. If you work with a pretty tight stop loss, you'll notice very often we'll go one direction for a bit, for example, upwards, before moving very hard towards the downside. If we then just let our stop loss get hit on the way up, we would be foolish because afterwards it's going to spike down pretty hard. And so to kind of combat that, we could have a contradictory position open in the meantime and basically exit the losing one after a little while and let the profit one just rise on. I know it's riskier, it's crazier, but it's something that a lot of people do. Again, to quickly explain it, it is a system where you open a position in both directions. Usually how you do this is one is the inverse perpetual on some place like Bybit, that's the one that I mostly use, and one USDT perpetual. And then the inverse, for example, is a, we could both, for example, do $10,000, the inverse being a short and the USDT being a long, for example, for that matter, or opposite way around. You understand what I'm trying to say? And then because you're going to see a sudden burst of volatility, with a very drastic move straight afterwards. In any one of these scenarios, like we've seen, we got a very big pump with a very significant dump afterwards. If we open both our positions right here on December, or for example, right here on November, one of the two trades would be in a lot of profit. And the question is, do you want to bank on the reversal or do you want to bank on that initial first burst? Both of them could be a very profitable endeavor, but there's very heavy wicks. It's a very dangerous game. But usually the minutes just prior to the FOMC are the most interesting, as most of the time thus far, we've seen the markets go upwards in that little beginning period. Anyways, we've also already described that for XRP right now, we are still in consolidation territory. We have yet to break out, we have yet to do something crazy, and it's been bothersome, I know. But realistically here, the XRP price has just not really been moving too much. If you zoom out, it's actually a little bit easier to see. We had ourselves a slight breakout in the period throughout September and November. Afterwards though, as Bitcoin also fell, so did XRP. And it's tried to get past this little zone here at roughly 40 cents or so. But it's not really done that with any confirmation thus far. And we are attempting. But anyway, the moment that we do, my first target for XRP is all the way towards 50 cents, major psychological barrier, and the 200 weekly moving average. It's something surely to watch out for. In regards to Bitcoin, like we've actually already said in the past right here, we have broken our major downtrend of 440 days or so. The only problem is, will we be able to continue on with that? I mean, you can see right here, depending on exactly how you draw it. Over on the daily, we had a breach before continuing to actually get back below the next day. Before right now, potentially retesting it again. This is one of the ways you could see it. But if we grab a logarithmic chart, you can actually see that, well, it looks a little bit more as if we've broken through somewhere last week. This is a weekly chart. You can see on the daily. We actually covered it the moment that it did break through as well. You can see our multiple targets actually being hit. I'd say multiple retests of the line before eventually breaching through. We said before, the moment that we breach, we're going to see a move all the way towards 24.5, now $24.7 thousand. We came close at roughly $24,000 before right now being in a little bit of a sideways action. But still, as of this point, even though the buying opportunity is not as great as it was before, just slightly before, I still think right now, as we speak, is an amazing opportunity to get ourselves into crypto, because even though we're not at the line anymore, we're not at the major multi-year trend line that lasted all the way back until 2017. We have never really breached it, except for like a couple minor moments throughout. We've never reached it. And now that we hear, this looks like a perfect reversal point like we already covered. There were also multiple indicators that showcased a massive reversal at that point. And right now, the only thing you can say is that indeed we are seeing a rejection basically at the 200 weekly moving average, because as you know, as prices fall back down, the moving average is kind of going to be looking a little bit more along the lines of this. And even though it's not perfect, many people were anticipating this exact point. And for that reason alone, it is not crazy to assume that we should just basically see this as a rejection at the 200 weekly moving average. A couple $100 below, like $500 below, is not that weird when there's this huge amount of people watching that move. And after Bitcoin just saw a move of over 50%, roughly 60 or so percent. For that reason, it is also not too crazy. But then again, the worst case that I could find is where Bitcoin would go all the way down towards like $17,000, $18,000. Again, I still do not believe we're going to take out this bottom at roughly $15,000. And so if you're asking me, I honestly do believe that the bull market has started yet again. Again, looking back, you can really clearly see every single time we touched this line here throughout the last 6 or so years, we've gotten a pretty crazy rush afterwards. And even though it might take some time, for example, since hitting this level right here, it took, you can see here, almost 200 days to reach a crazy top. And from this line here, it took, you can say, 175 days or potentially like 630 days before reaching an all-time high. It's just the fact that we do not see that bottom ever again. And it just showcases, especially when you look at it like this, that crypto really is mostly on the up and up. And that all these periods of downtime is just short-term lucky periods to accumulate, basically. Again, a reminder is that Bitcoin really is not below the 200 weekly moving average often. And the fact that we're below it right now for such an extended amount of time shows that this is just one of the best accumulation periods ever. And again, like I keep showcasing as well, I still believe that Bitcoin right now is picking up the pace to get a lot of the dominance back that can later on, when these altcoins flourish, be transferred back into altcoins. Right now, Bitcoin is getting all the fiat money. It's not really flowing into altcoins too much, but that's going to change. Even right now, for example, everything is down, but Bitcoin is down less, so it still picks up dominance. And that's needed because in a major alt run, a lot of money is going to flow out of Bitcoin into altcoins and into shitcoins as well. So right now it's picking it up. And again, in terms of Ethereum, we already described it as well. Right now, we're seeing a massive rejection at a level that we also got rejected at over in October, I believe it was. It's actually the beginning of November, as you can see right there. And that's, in my own opinion, again, because Bitcoin is trying to get its dominance back, where altcoins are facing a little bit of a roof. And the same thing applies to XRP as well, like we just covered, that it just can't get above these levels for right now because Bitcoin is king for a little bit. But yeah, later tonight, a lot of volatility is going to come. So be prepared for that. If you're still looking for an exchange to trade crypto on, there will always be links for that down below. You can see it right there. Just check those out for yourself. And that was it for today's video. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed it. And I'll see you all again in another crypto video later today.